special guest isn't here today.
Which one?
Dalton.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
We were so excited this week. We were supposed to have Dalton Proud here. We were talking this week. I said, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? And he goes, yeah, I'll be there. So I texted him yesterday. I said, what time are you going to be here in the morning? He goes, oh, I was so excited about getting back into town. I forgot to tell you it's next week. So now we had to put our thing, because I was looking forward to doing a podcast and just letting him talk because I'm brain dead right now.
Sorry, I had to fix the cameras, people. Yeah, I was looking forward to it too.
Yeah, well, that
Missed
next
the
week.
guy.
Next
Great
week.
guy.
I know.
Great guy to have around, man.
Next week,
I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
Yeah. Well,
his life transitions.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to him about because it's an aspect that I never really thought about too much. Is like when you think about scouting, because Dalton's now a pro scout with the Florida Panthers, right? So people might say, "What is a what is a pro scout?" So you probably there's different now. There's whole different levels of pro scouting. So when people think of scouting, they're thinking, "Oh, okay." Once you get to there's OHL and college recruiting and scouting, and then the NHL. So once you're scouted, it's over, right? But then there's a whole slew of scouts scouting the pro levels all over the world. So one of the guys that he put a stamp of approval, signed with Florida, so he felt really good that he was able to really contribute to the team. But so you think about that, right? You think that you're almost there, or you're there, you're in the system, the Florida Panthers draft you, but then they're not done building their team, so they're scouring every ECHL, American League things, and they're looking for one or two types of guys. So you might think that you're there, but then all of a sudden this guy from the Iowa Wild gets signed, and you go, oh, there's more. It just never ends. So the point of that is that if you're a good hockey player, you'll never ever go unseen. That's the reality.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit last week there, or 2 weeks ago. That it's always hard to hide, and it's you think you're there.
Can't hide.
You think you're there, and you're not there.
Yeah,
you're good.
Can't hide.
So, anyways, cool thing. We now are integrated with Biosteel.
Yeah,
which is pretty sick.
Yeah, it's cool. I love Biosteel.
Me too. I was thinking about it last night, and I was trying to figure out why. Because I was gonna make a post about it, and I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to say about it. And I didn't really know why I was so fired up about it. I was trying to I knew I was fired up, but I was like, what? Like, what about it? Like, why specifically am I excited? So there's two things. The first is that Biosteel is obviously like heavily, they're partnered with the NHL, which is a cool thing. So it's like a hockey brand, supplement brand, whatever, and the brand recognition is cool. But the other thing too is kids, not just kids, adults too. They always ask me about supplements, right? Yeah. They always want to ask about supplements. Yeah. And they don't know where to go. They don't know what to buy, because you don't need them. Most people don't need them at all. Right. They're convenient and they're nice to have, but they're expensive. Yeah. And so I think the biggest reason that I was I'm excited and looking forward to having it is so many more people can get access to it because it's now with the amount of discounts that we can give. It actually brings it into the realm of affordable now for people. Yeah. Where it's like, okay, I can actually spend this much money on it, where before it was double that. Yeah. Or whatever, So now it's something that you can trust. It's clean for athletes. You don't have to worry about what's in it, who's getting it. And in Canada, we don't really have a huge issue with supplements, but in the States, I know that they do. Yeah. And so that you're getting something that's really regulated. It's trusted by professional sports. They're really high quality. They freaking taste awesome. And it's cool. It's like a cool brand to be using. Really cool brand. So I think that I figured it out when I was thinking about it yesterday. Like that's what I'm excited about. Yeah. Is that way more kids, way more people are gonna be able to get anyone who follows us and uses the code that we have or comes through me and gets discounts. They are now bringing it into the realm of something that's more affordable, and parents. That's actually something that could be much more reasonable for parents to add to like their every 2-month budget for. Including groceries or whatever, like it's just a way more affordable. So I think those are the kind of the two things that were, that I was thinking about with that. Yeah. Any thoughts on the Biosteel thing? Well,
I know I'm really glad too, because a lot of the times I'll take, I was doing a lot of branched chain amino acids and stuff like that, and a lot of the times I do it just to flavor my water. Yeah, it's expensive flavor. Yeah, expensive flavor. But there is benefits to it. But the reason I like the Biosteel is because it's actually with the electrolytes built in and all that kind of stuff. It's like it is actually the perfect drink for my life, and for if my son's drinking a Biosteel all the time, I'm like happy with it because I know it's one of the things that people neglect is salts.
Yeah.
Right, and replenishing. Like it's one thing to get the water in, but it's also when you're sweating as much as we do or the kids do, a real good thing, or a thing that gets looked over is the salts, right? So just that simple Biosteel drink itself is really good to get that in you.
Yeah,
So that's awesome. It's a trick, right? You can trick yourself into getting it and without tasting like shit or whatever.
And drinking more water.
Yeah, you drink more water.
You said, because a little flavoring makes it way easier to drink too.
Yeah, I love water, but sometimes like, can I just not have water today?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so that's cool. So we have a whole bunch of stuff that's coming in for people that are around local, whatever. And then there's we have our code online. You guys can find it. It's in our bios and stuff like that.
The other thing I do like about it too is that it's a company that I respect, and like I like that we got respect back.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's cool. So that's that part. I have a cool story to tell before we get into our topic. For people that are listening, you won't be able to see it, but for people that are watching, I think this thing is sick. So
I make sure I'm going to look in the camera to make sure that they can.
Yeah, make sure they can see it properly in the camera. Can you see that?
Well, yeah, you got to look deep. It's your face is
through it. What if I move?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, it's better.
Okay, so
the point is, go ahead.
The point is, this is it's supposed to be a fish.
Yeah,
it's supposed to look. It kind of looks like a fish.
Yeah, it does a lot.
So, the backstory on this particular item is my girlfriend comes from a family of farmers.
Yep.
And I don't know. I was born in the city. I have no real experience with farming other than Nano has a garden in the backyard, and my other Nano used to have a apple orchard that he worked on. So he was like a farmer for himself kind of thing, but we're not talking like big farming.
Yeah.
So my girlfriend's family, big farming. So these guys, I love talking about this because they're some of the smartest people I've ever been able to talk to and to speak with in detail about what they do. And they love their job, which is cool. You talk about this all the time, trying to find excellence in wherever you're looking. And these guys, her cousins, her family and her cousins and all of them, that it's like a family farm type of thing. Yeah. And they love being farmers, man. It's amazing. So her one cousin, Jeremy, I don't think she would care if I use names or whatever, but her one cousin, Jeremy, you can ask this guy about anything from the seeds they use to the machines they use to how they fix something to the big silo bins, anything. And he will give you the book on every single thing that they do to make all the food we eat, more or less, right? Mm-hmm. And it's something that you don't really get to see, especially if you are, somebody who lives in a city and your parents have their standard pick your whatever regular job is, and you go to school in the city and you never really get out to see, except for when you drive down the 401 and you see the big combine chopping up the corn or whatever, right? So it's really cool to talk to them because they're so smart. They can fix anything, and they're tradesmen, which is cool because people don't give, in my opinion, from when I have conversations with people, I don't think that guys that are really good at trades get their due respect for being good at what they're doing.
Like not just farming, you're saying like
anything,
a mechanic.
Yeah.
Oh, I
agree. Plumbing, drywall guy, any of those.
Yeah, you respect them when you need one.
Exactly. And so I have so much respect for these guys because they can fix anything built. Like they're taking apart huge pieces of machinery, putting it back together, no problem, making custom tools for things that they need. And then on top of that, they're producing, you go to the grocery store and buy stuff, it's because they made it, right? Yeah. So it's just it's super interesting to talk to them because I don't know much about farming and I don't know much about anything that they're doing, but they're really, really smart guys. So it's great to talk to them. Anyways, her uncle, Henry, who I don't know how old he is. He might be in his 60s now. He made this. So the cool thing about her uncle is that he's a farmer, but he also has this weird creative touch to him. So he's really into photography and he's really into building like little projects using his skill set. So he knows how to weld, he knows how to do all kinds of trade stuff because he's been fixing stuff for 50 years or whatever. So anyways, he made this out of a bunch of pieces of wrenches, so broken tools that he's had, and he's created this thing that's just supposed to be like a fish. So he was explaining to me how he makes these things and why he makes them and the story behind why he makes them. So he does a lot of work with. I don't know if he's. I don't remember if he said it was with like the university kids that do research on like environmental sustainability and stuff like that. And so he was kind of making this piece as a symbol of integrating technology with environment, and how like if you get like to the deeper levels, it's like how humanity's progressing together, environment and people, like we're starting to integrate technology with our caveman selves, and it's cool to see like how those things work. So he had this whole story behind it. Anyways, I just thought it was super cool to see. He ended up giving me this one because I was so interested when he was talking about it. So he takes a bunch of pieces of tools, welds them together, makes some kind of symbol out of it, then he gets it sandblasted and painted, and it's like a little art piece that he makes out of all this old crap that he has lying around. And he does a whole bunch of stuff. It's not just these. He just has that creative touch to him.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was super fascinating, because here's a guy where if you sit across the table from this guy, you would never, ever, ever, ever think he's gonna make something like this or have an artsy touch to him or anything like that, because he's the farmer working man that he just welded whatever together and just got off the field with the tractor and all that kind of stuff. And my whole point of that story was, one, that this is super cool, and two is you never know who you're talking to, man.
That's right.
You never know like what they have to offer. So if you're at something I try to take a lot of pride in is if I'm with people in a social situation, and you do this too, I actually learned this a lot from you, is trying to pull out what you can pull out from people.
Yeah.
You know, if they have a job, like let's dig into that. Like, what do they know how to do? Like, and it's, people are fascinating, man. If you let them talk for 5 minutes about what they do.
People are smart. Like, so like you said that with the trades. I love you know, everybody is in the last, well, I guess when I was a teenager too, it was like, you heard, I get a trade and it'll be good, but everyone was pushing university so much, right? And university could be good if you use it the right way and stuff, but there's so many people, it's almost like people look down on trades.
Right,
like
exactly.
Carter, our son, not our son because we're not married, but our son, Christine and I, he's in the trades, and this guy could work 24 hours a day. He's good. He can fix anything. It's incredible. So I'm proud of him. Like he's got
absolutely,
and he'll never be out of work. And if that's another kid. Here's another kid, man. You look at Carter and you'd say, this guy's just like, because he looks like a farmer.
Yeah.
Right. He looks like Joe Hillbilly with rubber boots.
Yeah.
You know, he's always got a beard and, you know, red face from being outside, and he's got a pylon shirt on most of the time, like with the X on it.
X, yeah.
But this guy can fix anything, can do anything, and you know, if I had to go and if I was in a position where I'm like, I need to borrow some money from somebody, I know I could go to him and say, hey, I need X amount of dollars, and he'd be like, yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
You know, he's got it, but he doesn't look like he's the smartest guy in the room. I don't mean that, but no, I mean, he looks like the guy that you would not suspect to be the smart one, but he's very, very smart.
Yeah. And
he can fix anything.
Yeah. And that's the moral of my story bringing that up is just, if you find when you're sitting across with people you don't know, or you're at a family gathering and it's just dull conversation, like start asking some questions, man.
Well, I got one for you. Yeah. So I told you last week I was supposed to be on a farm, right?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, you told me. Yeah.
But he canceled, and I was so glad he canceled because I was gassed from all the skating we do. So like my quick story on this is, like you say, you talk to people and you find out an actual sincere interest. So I'm having a conversation with this guy, and he's got one of the biggest cattle and dairy farms in Ontario. So I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Totally.
What do you do with a cow? Like, honestly, what do you do with a cow? I don't know. So it's one of the biggest ones. He's got a digester, which means he takes the cow shit and all kinds of raw materials, puts it in a digester, and he sells energy. So this is on one piece of land, which is really interesting. So I was asking him, and then so they got hundreds of cows that they milk every day. So this guy gets up and he works until he goes to sleep every day. And so he goes, this is dairy cows. And then he was explaining different cows. So I was going through all the different breeds of cows and learned stuff that I didn't know. So and then he was explaining what meat is better than others, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, well, what do you do with a dead, like, what do you do with a dairy cow? He goes, you can't eat those? He goes, no, you can, but the meat is not nearly as good because they're not as fat, right? Like the cows, the cow's getting milked all the time, right? So it's like they're out milking a cow here. So anyways, so there was there's no fat in them, or maybe it's fat. I forget what it is, but so anyways, there's a couple of the big companies that tried I don't want to say their names because I don't want to get it right or wrong, but they went and used the dairy cow's beef. They used the dairy cow beef for their hamburgers at these chain restaurants.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they're cheaper and it's shittier meat, and they can hide it. But if you had, and they cover it up with all their stuff, but they tried changing it to a juicier kind, and they used the Angus or whatever, and then it was like, no, it doesn't sell as much, and it's too expensive and all that stuff. So they continue to use the dairy cow meat, but it's no good.
Really?
Because if you had a meat from the dairy cow, you'd be like, ugh,
interesting.
no good. Yeah. So I learned all kinds of stuff about that.
Yeah.
So I was supposed to go on his farm the other day, and he was so actually interested. I go, dude, yeah. I said, what do I wear? He goes, you got cowboy boots? And I was like, no. I used to, but he goes, you just get a pair of rubber boots and just, whatever, and we'll go all day. We'll go, show me your, and he goes, really? I go, I'm dead serious, man. I'd love to learn everything about it.
Yeah. And the
Maybe
reason
give birth to a cow. I don't know. Be sick.
The reason that'd be sick.
Yeah, it'd be sick.
That'd be sick. The reason that's actually important is because it gives you perspective on life, man.
Oh yeah.
So you don't end up being like one of these people in the comments on TikTok that just talk shit and don't know anything about anything. Right. That's how you learn about the world and how you learn about life, and you learn about a whole bunch of different things. And when I come across people like my girlfriend's family, like extended family that do this, I am so genuinely interested in letting them speak, where I can just shut my face and just let them talk about the thing I know nothing about, and I can ask questions, and I can see like the passion that they have for their job. I can get all of that. Plus I get to learn about some things I didn't know, like the one, just to wrap it up, cause I'm going a little long here, but they were talking not the last time I was there, but the time before, about the Ukraine-Russia thing, and how that's actually affecting them because of the cost of pesticides that they get from Russia. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's interesting. Yeah. So my food goes up. That's a reason that it goes up. Instead of me just going to the grocery store and bitching about why everything's more expensive, it's like now I can say, okay, well, I know that there's some things going on that I don't fully understand, but there's actual reasons for things and that kind of stuff. So So anyways, bottom line, this is really cool. So I'll show it one more time. It's a fish. And thanks, Henry, for giving it to me. That's all I have.
That's cool.
Yep. Moving on. Topic I wanted to touch on today. I wanted to talk, well, I'll give the story first. I had a conversation with one of our guys maybe 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Came in on a Friday to work, and I went out to take a pee, as we do, and I noticed that one of our guys was on the ice. And I came in and asked you if he was on the ice, and you said yep. And I was a little bit confused and a little bit pissed off because Friday is supposed to be their off day. So they're every day, Monday to Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, they're working out or on the ice or both multiple times a day. And Friday is the sacred off day.
Yeah.
And now people have a hard
necessary one.
Yeah, it's the necessary off day. And people have a hard time taking off days and taking breaks. And this is always with the caveat that you work hard enough to begin with, because there's also the flip side where people take too many breaks because they haven't learned how to work hard yet. Almost all of our guys, without exception, work, man. They work. So they need to take a day. And so I called him on it because I was a little bit annoyed and disappointed that he wasn't following the prescription. So we talked about it for a bit, and I was just trying to pick his brain about why did he feel the need that he should be on the ice again on Friday when I know he's bagged, and it was early too, so he didn't get to sleep and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't the fact that he was on the ice, it's the fact that he's not taking his recovery day now. So I was trying to ask him about that, and he gave me a lot of answers that a lot of people give. And that's kind of what I wanted to frame the topic about today, is sticking to the plan that you make for yourself, because that can be a very difficult thing to do, because you don't get to see progress day to day when you're in a plan that's longer term. I'm talking in the 4+ month at a minimum. It's hard to see that you're getting better or that things are working or whatever. And the tendency, especially for kids and for parents a lot too, is they feel like they need to be doing everything. They need to have their foot in every bucket. They need to make sure they're not missing out on something. They need to see every trainer and experience every single thing that is around so that they don't miss something. But the problem is that in the process of doing that, you end up taking away from what the structured plan was. So if you're assuming you're with somebody who is developing a plan or a program for you that is intelligent, and it's somebody that you trust, and it's somebody that cares about you, I want to talk about that, just that, trying to as best you can to stick to that. Maybe a little bit about dealing with the distractions that are going to come with trying to do that. Maybe I'll touch on a little bit about discipline in terms of your programming and all that kind of stuff. So I'll leave it there, and we'll see where we go. I'll just get your starting thoughts on that before we keep going.
That's a really good one. It's really hard sometimes. Like I said, I used this line before. In a house, you have there's motivated parents and motivated players, and usually in the house, they don't live in the same house. So a lot of times you'll see a kid that they just feel like they have to be doing more, and there's reasons, I guess, but they always think that if someone else, because you always hear someone, if you're not working, someone in Russia is. If you're not doing that, someone else somewhere.
My dad used to say it to me all the time.
Yeah, and it's very true. That's true. But if you use that principle, then you'd never sleep. You'd just be working out, and you'd never be doing enough. And that's not a fair way to do it. How do you have to look at it is that when I have my allotted time, speaking of being in a program, what you have to make sure you're doing is, if it's the workout time and you have an hour and a half workout or hour workout, that workout has to be given 100% of your effort, the best that you possibly can. Give everything you have. Don't leave. If you're looking at if you're shooting for 1 rep max, shoot for the 1 rep max. Don't cut yourself short, so that at the end of the day you actually did what you tried to do. But your focus has to be 100%, not 100% focus all the time, but 100% focus while you're doing your task. And that means your off day needs to be the same thing. 100% relax the best that you can. So that's a thing where when you do your task, do it well, and then you won't have any regrets, right? So then when you go on the ice and it's like you plan out your summer training for on the ice now, it's like, okay, this has to be an intelligent way of doing it, and you got to pick, okay, what am I going to do? Do I need to just stick handle all summer? Maybe that's your thing. Well, you can't go everywhere all the time and just do more. That focus on what you need to focus on. The other problem with that, there's a couple of reasons why this happens too. Parents a lot of the time will think that their kids are missing out on stuff, and they are more motivated to get their kids ready than the actual kid is, right? So sometimes a parent will suggest, oh, you need to do this, you're not working hard enough, and they push the button so much that and they're looking, or sometimes they get pressured as well. So I have a lot of customers that because I could consider them friends too, and there's something, and I always throw out, I'm doing this, and this. I'll do the qualifier. Don't feel like you need to do this. I'm just letting you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I would suggest you actually take time off, whatever. But then I get them saying, they sign up anyways because they feel like they're offending me. Right. If I don't, I'm like, never, you're never offending me. But I could use that guilt trip on a lot of people and say, guys, you need to be here, or, well, you can't skate anywhere else. And, you got to make sure I'm making my money too.
And trainers do that.
100%. That's why I'm saying it. It's like, you don't go to someone because they guilt you. Right. There's that. There's a lot of reasons why people do it, but what the other thing you have to understand is, and this is, I think, from a coach trainer side, I think I've said this before, but I've always had a lot of times where coaches would say, hey, I want you to work with my team. And it's like, okay, that's good. I want to, but, and work them hard or work on this. Like if I was doing a specific thing for the team, that's one thing, but when they would bring them in the gym, and then, they were looking for something, like bag them at the end of the day. But it's like, there's a time and a place where that's appropriate. And then there's a time and a place where it's not. So like in the summertime, in training time, like the part that would get on your nerves, and I know would not hurt your feelings, but what bothered you about that 2 weeks ago when that guy was on the ice, is because you worked your ass off. We all have worked our ass off, but you particularly are so invested in his success in the gym to make him a better hockey player that you took hours and hours, and I'm going to try to make them feel bad here. No, but for all those kids that you did the programs, and specifically a handful that are high achievers right now, that you took time, like more, like if that program is $100, let's say they paid $100, you've given them 1,000 worth, and the investment that you put in it was for them, and you're dialed into it as much as they are, every individual. So now when that person is, you ask how you're eating, what did you eat, what are you weighing, all this stuff, because you want them dialed in, and you pay attention to the recovery, all these things are important to you. So the problem is that when they go out and do something else like that, where you go out and you just go spend, another 1,000 calories for no reason, where you should be resting, your recovery's done. Now it affects your training. Right. Yeah. So so the kids, you got to remember, and parents, you got to remember, when you're hiring people to do the job, you have to take in consideration, like, where's my biggest bang for the buck, right? So if I've got my on ice trainer, off ice trainer that are highly invested in me, and then I get another thing here and here that maybe the coach says I have to do, or this one looks good and it's hard and stuff. Well, then the two people that are really highly invested in you don't know what's going on over here. It's not that you're doing this thing over here. It's that now you're messing this up. Right. Like, I can't tell you how many times. Okay, I'll tell you this. This is a quick story. Okay. So I had a guy who played for the Spits. He was from out of town. He was staying in the summer. His dad had a lot of money. He said, "Can you train my son? He needs to specifically work on skating." Right. He was a first rounder. I said, "Yeah, for sure." He goes, "You're going to spend the summer, but like, how many times a week would you need to do this to make it effective?" So I said, "It's going to take 2 times a week, and for about 6 to 8 weeks for it to make a difference, that I can work and progress." Okay, cool. How much? So I said, based on that amount of training, it's going to be
this much.
Is private, right? And he goes, "Okay, great. So 2 things here. Twice a week. I need this skating. Can you fix the skating?" I said, "Yeah, I can do that." "How much?" That's a lot of money, right? So first session, guy comes out, and he looked like he got hit by a Mack truck.
Oh yeah.
So I said, I go, what, you all right? He goes, "Oh, my trainer it was June." He goes, "We just did the hill and we did a 2-3 miler plus the hill, and plyo jumps on the hill." And I said, "In June?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "You can't." He goes, "I can hardly stand up." I said, "Well, that's not good."
Yeah. You're here to work on skating.
Well, yeah, you can't come here right? And now the kid I can't be effective. I can't as a trainer. So now I'm no good.
And the parents will think it didn't work.
Well, this is
what happens, right?
Yeah. So I said, "Well, do you think you can talk to this guy about, like, maybe letting him know that on this day you're going to be doing skating, you're going to be in that, hip hinge and using your quads so much that maybe, and it's important that you're a good skater."
Fresh.
Yeah, fresh, and you're a good skater. Yeah. So yeah, I'll try, but every time we come in, it's like it was a waste of time. So my point of that is, like, when a coach says, "Okay, you guys are going to go to PowerTech now on a Tuesday night during your season," or we're going to do, because a couple of coaches have done that. It says, "Can you take them on the ice 2 hours a day and have them in the gym and just bag them?" That's what they say. Hey, work them hard. It's like, okay,
don't be scared to work them.
So from my perspective, it's like, I always go, "Yeah, I can," but I said, who are they training with? Like, not all these kids are PowerTech guys, and or the ones that do not need that extra skate, or they do not need that that extra workout. So it's like, yeah, I know what you're doing, but God, is this not good for them?
Yeah.
So that's like, there's so many offshoots of that. Like, stick to the plan.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I want to try to, like, sharpen up, like, some of the concerns that people have and the reasons that they do this, because I'm hoping that people that listen, maybe some of these points will touch something that they think as well, and then we can kind of try to knock down some of the points that people have concerns about. So first thing I want to say is, a whole mess of shit that you're doing in the off season is not the same as a plan.
Yeah.
Right. So just doing a bunch of random crap with different people is not the same as a plan and progressing. That's not the same thing.
Yeah. When
you're younger, you can get away with more of that because you're so young. You just need to improve everything. So reps will improve you. Right. Yeah. So you could be faked out into thinking that all these things I'm doing are helping, which they are when you're young. But if you keep that same framework as you start to get older, and you're just doing a whole mess of shit through the off season, it's not a plan. It's not a progression. So that's the first thing I want to put on the table for that is doing all kinds of crap is not the same thing as following a program. That's number one.
For sure.
Number two, if you are going to follow a certain program, you need to do a good amount of research and a good amount of question asking to the trainers that are involved to make sure that it's actually a good program and it's actually a thoughtful program. Because if you stick to the plan that's a bad one, that's not a good thing either.
Yeah.
So those are like the two things that I want to start with. So it's not just a given that if you follow a program, it'll work. It has to be a thoughtful program. It has to be with thoughtful trainers. And the nice thing about being at a place like PowerTech is you have the gym and the ice at the same spot where the trainers communicate.
Yeah.
So I can know what you guys did on the ice. I can know how they're feeling around their skates and vice versa. You'll know what kind of workouts they did today, and we can gauge our plans appropriately. That's what makes this program awesome, is that you have that, where we can cater to the individual because we see everything that's going on. Now, to your point earlier, how you said if you go and do something else on a different day that we don't know about, that it's not that you're doing something else with somebody else that's an issue. It's that we have a set plan, and we're not accounting for that variable in our plan.
Yeah.
So for the guy I was talking to on the Friday's your off day, and we had fitness testing Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, can I expect you to come in and be fresh now for your fitness testing on Saturday? Probably not, because now it's 14 days in a row that you've been bagging yourself, which is dumb.
Yeah.
You know? So I wanted to just throw those in the background first, and I want to start talking about some of the specific concerns that people can have that would lead them to do this. So you're a parent, so I'm going to ask you your kind of parent perspective on some of this stuff. So let's say you have a plan. Let's say I got 3 skates per week in June, early July. So I'm going to skate 3 days a week with you. I'm going to work out 4 times a week with Eric in the gym. So if you're a mom and dad, what in your experience and parents you've dealt with or things you can think of on your own, whatever, what are some things from your experience dealing with parents or just your own thoughts on why somebody would feel the pull or feel the need to go and do another skate with another trainer or another workout with another trainer or add XYZ thing on those other days? Like, what are some of the main concerns that maybe in your experience you've seen, let's say as a parent or as you can take it however you want?
No, I would say probably the number one thing is that people like to be one step ahead of everybody else. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times people have said, I don't tell anybody about your stuff because I don't want anybody to know.
Yeah.
It's almost like there's not enough success to go around, so I have to take it all. And I would say that's actually number one. So right? Because people, like, I can't tell you how many times people go, they try to, have a beer or whatever, and they say, like, so what do you do with Charlie? Mm-hmm. I go, just what you see. How do you talk to him? What do you say to him? Who do you talk to? Who's the age? Like, all that stuff. It's like there's a secret out there, right? Yeah. And like, so if I can take my kid and do all that, okay, so let's just say my name is Albert, right? And I see Charlie and Seabass and whatever, Noah Morno skate at PowerTech 5 days a week and they work out there. Okay, so I'm going to do that too. And then there's also this guy that does this stick handling stuff along the side, but I'm not going to tell anybody because I'll be a little bit farther ahead. So they're going to wonder what the heck happened to him. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to tell or whatever, right? So I think that plays a huge, huge role in it is you think that you're getting farther ahead, right? Yeah. Or you have a trainer or whatever that does something else that you think you're going to get farther ahead. And it's fine if you do that, but it's probably better if you tell the trainer that you're working with that this is what you're doing, just to be accountable. I think a lot of the times the next one would be, I think people as parents don't have the backbone a lot of the times to say no to their kids and decipher what is beneficial or what's too much, what's not enough, what's a good trainer, what's not a good session, right? Yep. So when I look at that, I see that a lot of times that the kid will just like, put the lip out and say, but I want to go skate with this one because it's fun, or I want to do this because someone else is doing it, and they don't have a purpose, and the parents don't have the whatever the word is to say no, enough's enough, or do you not think you're doing too much or whatever, right? So that was one of the things that we did with Charlie was like this summer, because I know you might have, you never really said it to me, but you might have said, like, because I told you we're boxing every Saturday. He needs that. So I think we did talk about it. Let's just make sure it's not a total conditioning thing, right? Of course,
right.
I'd rather just throw
what
bombs.
are you there for?
But now we both know that if you go to a boxing gym, it's not just you're going to stand there and do grabs or make sure that you can throw a punch. So we know that there's going to be an element of conditioning in there. So, but so we know, okay, we can adjust for that.
Exactly.
So now exactly. that's, and then we're going to do our sprints on Saturday as well. So, but I added that in because I knew for my son, I would say this for most people, but I know for my son with the style of play he plays that he needs that. Yep. He needs to know how to, he's going to drop the gloves every now and then, and he needs to know how to do that. So it's critical.
Right.
So I didn't say I need to go to a power skating coach.
Right.
And bag yourself.
And sorry, let me cut you off for a sec.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't want to disrupt your train of thought, but and then just a side note, like as a trainer too, because I'm on Charlie's team, like I'm on Seabass's team. All my guys, like my core guys that are always here, like you said, I want nothing but the best for these guys.
Absolutely.
So if you need to go to Border City Boxing Club because that's part of your game that you want to develop, it's up to me as your trainer not to say, poopy pants, you can't do that. You should only be with me and nobody else ever because I know everything and nobody else can be helpful to you except me. It's, okay, I can't offer you that. So you need to go do that. And I need to adjust my plan now to fit that into the frame, as you said, right?
Exactly.
It's not me as the trainer saying, well, no, you shouldn't do that. You should only stay here, and put the handcuffs on you and make you feel guilty about trying to do something else.
Yeah, get your ego in the way and all that.
Yeah, shit. When it was like another one, like I remember Seabass went in and met with a nutritionist from Montreal, and I don't know if he felt like this or not. I'm not projecting onto him. I'm just saying one thing he could have felt was maybe a little bit nervous to tell me that he was going to do that because I'm the one making his meal plan, right? So as somebody, if I got too much ego as the trainer and he tells me I'm going to meet with this nutritionist from Montreal and I say, whoa, what are you doing that for? Like what? But instead I said, that's great. Bring my meal plan. Like have her tear it apart. If there's a problem, like we need to know so that we can fix it. I would love to get the input on that. And I think definitely, whether he was nervous to tell me or not, I put him at ease about doing that because now he knows that I know what's happening. Now our plans can come together instead of I give you this nutrition thing, you also have this information and they don't know about each other. So now we could have conflict because we're not communicating, So I just wanted to interrupt with that piece too, because people don't think about that either. It has to work together. Things need to work together. That's a really important point that you made.
Yeah, well, and it has to work together. And it's like, so when we discuss the boxing, and then we also, like Charlie works here too. Mm-hmm. So we also understand that it's not optimal for him to be on the ice all day, right? That's not optimal. But he has to make a living too because he's got to pay for some stuff when he moves away. And I need my son to work, and so he could work here, could work on a farm, he could work in a factory or do lawns and all that stuff. But this happens to be the best place for anybody in the world could work. No, but he grew up here, and it's like he is PowerTech, right? Mm-hmm. So now we got to take in consideration that he's also on the ice, not just working, but demoing drills and doing extra stuff. So now at the end of the day, Seabass too. Yeah. At the end of the day, they're not only working out for an hour and a half, they're also on the ice for an hour and a half, 3 times a week, and they're on the ice working for another 4 hours on the ice. So now we take all that in consideration, and we're gonna go boxing on Saturday too, every weekend, and he's gonna spend some time with my brother doing jiu-jitsu stuff. Holy, like, okay, so how do we adjust? Well, that might mean, I'm not saying this is not the prescription, but what we look at, or you look at, is saying, okay, so there's cardio, there's that steady state cardio that's taking place for 4 hours instead of maybe 30 minutes or whatever. So maybe some conditioning doesn't need to happen on the bikes or the running or whatever. So we can compensate with that. Also, with all that stuff, your 3,500 calories that I want you to eat every day, that doesn't work anymore. Right. So we can tweak that and say, now you need to have 4,500 or 5,000 calories based on the goals that we have. And maybe you have to offset some speed somewhere or whatever. Mm-hmm. And your recovery, you have to sleep, dude. You have to sleep. And I want to see your recovery. And you know what? It works out. It's fine. It's fine, but as long as everyone knows. But the problem is that if you don't tell you that, if I just say he's boxing and I don't want, because let's say you say, well, you can't be spending that much time on beating your body up. And then you're sitting there going, why is your recovery so low? Like, what are you doing? And now you're trying to fix, you're trying to fix the something that's not there.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
You're thinking it's a heart, but it's actually, no, it's the kidneys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly right, man. And this is where people start to run into problems. So because not everything is known, and again, this is all given that you have someone you trust and a trainer that actually thinks this way, which most people actually don't. So this is like the first step is you need to find someone you trust that actually has a thought out plan for you for the summer that makes sense, which a lot of people have a hard time finding. So I'm taking that as a given with everything that we're saying. But this is what people, and I can't tell you, even with just the short time that I've been doing this as a full-time job, how much I see this guy's running here, this guy's running there, this guy's running here. It's like you're going to skate with us twice a week and him 3 times a week and work out here twice a week and go there twice a week. And then you're doing this, this, and this. And then you show up here, but I don't know about any of that other stuff. So in the time where it's June and it's like, okay, we can really focus on strength. You already skated twice today. It's like, okay, why do you come in here and you see no progress? It's like, well, you're not sticking to the plan. You're not sticking to your meal plan. You're not sticking to your workout plan, and you're not sticking to your skating plan. Instead, you're doing everything and in effect accomplishing not much, and this is where you start to stagnate in your development. And that starts to happen when you get 14, 15, 16, 17, because you no longer get the baby gains of just reps. It's not just reps that make you better anymore. Now it has to be focused attention on certain things that you need as an individual. And if you're not doing that, if you're not getting that, then everything is for nothing. You feel like you're doing everything, yet you're accomplishing nothing, because everything is now competing instead of working in harmony, and that's what the goal should be. If you have a plan, an off-season plan or an off-season program, and people use those kinds of terms, like what program should I follow? It's like, okay, what does a program actually mean? And that's where I find a lot of the issues that are happening with some of these kids. Like, they just feel like they have to do everything all the time, and they're not having that line of communication between systems where everything can be accounted for, and that's why you see last week, like, I made adjustments with a bunch of guys, not just Charlie, but a bunch of the kids coming in. It's like they're bagged. It's like, okay, like, you're done for the day. Like, that's it. You're done. I had another kid on yesterday say, hey, like, does it matter if I can just come in? I feel like I need a day off. Like, can I just come in and like roll out and stretch out? Is that okay? I'm like, yeah, like, perfect. Like, that's what I want. I want you to tell me when you're done. I want you to tell me when you're bagged. I want to know if you feel like shit, because then we can make an adjustment and still be making progress, because a recovery day is progress. It's not a step back. If you miss your hinge day because you're so gassed and you recover, that's not actually a problem.
Yeah.
It's one day.
So Charles Poliquin used a quote all the time. He says, sometimes the dummies approach, like, so say, whatever, for the books for dummies.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so sometimes the dummies approach is just dumb.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So as you were talking about this, I think I wanted to just maybe give another example, maybe, because a lot of people might say, well, I don't understand what you're saying. So maybe a simplified version of that is just someone, because everybody, I think most people have tried to get in shape at some point of their life. I would say most, and people go to a gym and and what does that plan look like? Right. So what I find a lot of the times is people will go to a gym and, like, if you don't know what you want, it's like the old, what road, there's a fork in the road, what roads do I take? Well, where do you want to go? Right. So if you're going to work out and you say you're in your mind, you want to get bigger or more muscular, like thicker as an adult or whatever. Okay, fine. But there's a way to do that. There's an absolute way to do that. And that's like doing hypertrophy work and diet, right? But what'll happen is it's the all or nothing approach, and they want to do more. So if you do a prescription of, like, let's say a bodybuilding prescription, and you start getting, you might get stronger, whatever. But if you mix all kinds of training up, right, like if you want to do CrossFit and a hypertrophy workout and go for a long run, then that's not going to work, right? That's that dummies approach. It's dumb. So you have to stick to a plan for a period of time, like so if you want to get bigger, a hypertrophy plan for maybe 6 weeks. And then it might even bore you, but that's what you want. This is what you have to do. And some of it's resting.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's people want more or they want it faster. So I remember I've been my girlfriend, not to get personal about my girlfriend, but she talks about what her plan is at the gym with me quite a bit. And we always have, I don't know if she, like, talking with me is the first time she's heard about this kind of thing. Like, what specifically are we trying to do? But we always bring it back to that when we're talking. It's like she'll say, okay, this is what I'm thinking for my workout. Like, this is what I want to do, whatever. And it'll always come back to every 4 weeks or every 2 months or whatever it is where she changes up kind of what the goal is. It's like, okay, we need to remember what the goal is. Like, which thing do you want? Do you want to get bigger? Well, if you want to get bigger, you're not going to be your leanest, right? You can't. And if you want to get bigger, you actually have to eat way more than you eat. You can't try to get bigger and not eat, and you can't try to get leaner and eat so much, right? So it's like you have to have it very, very specifically defined in your head what you want. We say this all the time. The intention is everything. The actual goal is everything, and you can't do everything at once because those things are going to compete with each other. You want to get bigger, but you also want to be ripped. It's like, okay, but you have to be willing to not be so lean for a period of time to get bigger. That's just what is going to happen. That's how the body works. And that's a good example with the fitness. That's probably the easiest example that you can give for people. So are there any other concerns or anything that stands out in your mind about, or even from the player perspective, of things that kind of make people go off track?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of that you think you're a step behind, or you're getting ahead by doing more. I think it's pressure, someone putting a little bit of pressure on you, and sometimes just ignorance.
Yeah,
just thinking, oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
it sounds good. It sounds fun. Some people just, and this is okay. Some people, like we had someone the other day. We had we implemented a new program on the ice, small area thing. Actually, got it from Saginaw Spirit, right? Seabass was kind of instrumental in helping me, because I've been looking for things like this, helping me implement it the other day, and it was really good. But I could see some people go, I don't want to do this. Like, you could see it, and actually one kid said, well, that's not what I like to do. But what this kid likes to do is just play hockey. So he puts no intention into it. He just likes to play hockey, and he wants to go somewhere with it, but he just wants to play the game. He doesn't care about why this gets to it, like how this benefits. No, it doesn't make sense to him. He just wants to play. So he wants to go just do the fun things. So he might go chase around 10 different skates a week because he wants to go and skate through people and shoot pucks. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
But there's going to be limited results.
Yeah, there's consequences to that choice, right? Yeah. So the next kind of thing I wanted to talk about, and I don't think we've really talked about this before, so I'm hoping this leads us in an interesting direction, because I was just kind of thinking about I'm thinking of one kid in particular, and he seems like he does everything right. Okay. He seems like he works really hard. He skates hard. He's a good kid, but then I watch him in the game, and he seems the same. And so the question that I always end up asking in my head is, what do you do when you're not here? What are you doing when you're at home? Because what I think, and this is just kind of me thinking while we've been talking, I wrote this down, is where are the differences actually made for kids, right? When they're in those like critical development years, where do you actually see the biggest difference in, or what makes the biggest difference? Everybody has a trainer, everybody skates, everybody works on their skill stuff for, let's say, 3 hours a day, let's say 5-6 times a week. So what is separating one kid from another kid? Obviously that there's some genetic capabilities, there's some, faster rates of progression for kids. But to me, one thing that I think is a real missing link, especially with kids now, is what do you do when you're not here? So when you're at home, I think that is where you make or break your own progress, when you're not doing your training. So you train hard for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, off ice, on ice, whatever it is. That's a lot of day outside of that.
Yep.
So what are you doing mentally? What are you doing physically? We talk about environment things. And to me, in my opinion, people get so caught up thinking, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing this, I need to go to this trainer and this trainer and this trainer and do this and this and this. But then you still go home for 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do during that time?
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's becoming more and more apparent to me that is the time that makes or breaks you. When you're not here, are you staying dialed in outside of being here? Mm-hmm. So instead of as parents or as players, instead of being so concerned about making sure you don't miss something in terms of this spring hockey tournament or team or this training with this trainer or whatever thing you think you're missing, spend more focused attention when you're not doing your training yep. at the gym, on the ice, because that's where the gains to me are really going to be made, because everyone is kind of on equal.
I just want to ask a question. So when you said that this player, you don't see it in the game, that when we play the games, you don't see the progress in a game?
Not like I do, but I don't.
But the only question I'm asking about this is like, you don't see that, you think he should be better?
I feel like he should be better based on what I see when he's training.
And better as far as what? Skill?
As a hockey player. Just playing the game.
Okay.
I feel like he should be more impactful.
Okay.
Based on the work that he seems to put in when he's training.
Okay.
Let's say.
Okay.
So because of the one kid I'm thinking of in particular,
yep.
And the other one too, the one that they're always kind of paired.
Yep.
With those two guys, when I go watch them, I'm like, man, these guys are horses. Like, they work. Yeah. And there's certain things, like some guys just don't have the ability to the same degree as other guys, and that's fine. But the question mark I have, which I don't have with other guys, is when you're not here, I don't know what you do. Right. I don't know if you're still trying to make progress in those other 20 hours of the day when you're not here, or the other 10 that you're awake, whatever it is, you know? So to me, I feel like people don't really put emphasis on what they're doing when they're not here. It's like I come do my 3 hours and then I'm done.
Okay,
does that make sense?
So,
what I'm saying kind of makes sense?
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. So now, but I got questions.
Yeah, for sure.
So my next question would be, like, in your opinion, what do you think that one or two of those guys do? Like that, I'm just curious what you're thinking. What do you think? Like, you say, I have no idea what they're doing, or do you think that they?
It would be kind of like either recovery things or environment things, or one of those two, recovery things or environment things. So the second you walk out the door, is it all about your girlfriend now? The second you walk out the gym door, are you eating whatever you want? Are you going to bed late? Are you worried about hanging out with your friends and are you hockey?
Oh, okay.
Do you understand what I mean?
I do. I do. Because I'm trying to make I'm trying to, not trying. I'm just, because I don't want to say that when you're done your day of hockey that you never ever think about hockey, or don't. Because what I'm saying is there is a time and a place to rest and not think about hockey.
For sure.
Not think about
For
hockey.
Sure.
But then getting hockey out of your mind, what does that mean? Is that what you're saying?
Kind of that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So here, I'll give the example, because what I'm thinking of is when I was a kid, and I didn't make the NHL, so there you go. But when I went home from school, or when I went home from wherever, it was like hockey, 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 hockey. Not that I never rested or never thought about something else, but it was like, that was always the backdrop of what I was thinking. You know, it was like that genuine love, like the genuine passion of, I just want to sit in my driveway and just stick handle and just like flip the puck around on my stick and tape it and look at it and just make sure my gear's in the perfect position. And I had a lot of that. And I don't know if the kids have that. And my question is, are they so busy trying to chase? Do they think that it's a trainer that's going to make or break them? That's kind of what I'm getting at. Is the trainer going to be the difference maker? Because to me, if you go anywhere to work out, if you have the work ethic and your trainer is somewhat educated on how to train people,
you're going to be fine.
You're going to be fine. You don't need to come here. I think here's the best, but you could go somewhere else.
Okay, I think, I'm just going to cut you off. I think, like, as you're saying all this kind of stuff, I think it's your environment. 100%. 100%. I think that's your environment. Like in my house, I would say I'm the rudder. Okay. We keep things in line. He sees me, like, we do it together, but not because I tell him what to do. So he sees me eat, right? It would be one thing, and I think a lot of these kids have this, right? Mom and dad want to make pierogies that night. Well, that's not healthy. But I'm going to make sure that he's eating the way I eat. We're going to have carbs, protein, and old guy here, guy looking in. We're going to have healthy food that we can be optimal on. He's going to see me work out, get up in the morning and work out. So what happens in our house, he at the end of the day, if I say, Charlie, do you think this is a good idea? He knows where it's coming from. He knows that I do it too. And he knows that, look at the people that we deal with. Mm-hmm. So he understands, okay, this is probably a good thing. And we play catch and we do things together that are, and our conversations when it's about hockey, it's not goofy stuff. It's like becoming better. So like being the rudder, it's like it always just, I know how to take my kid and just bring him back to focus without telling him all about hockey. Yeah. So I always know how to build a dream with him without him knowing I'm building a dream. You know, to lay out something there that he goes, oh yeah, I want to be a pro. Right.
So this is precisely what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So my point, and you just spelled it out for everyone, parents listening, is more on the parent side, because kids don't know. Like they don't know. They need the rudder.
Yeah.
But I think parents, they're so busy trying to make sure we don't miss something or compete with somebody else.
Right.
Or in the very few hours of the day that their kid is training, and they don't prioritize or they don't think about the rest of the day. Like, what does your kid do the rest of the day? And for you, the example you just spelled out was you're making sure that that environment is conducive to the goal that your kid says that he has. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how true that is for other people. And that's kind of what I'm pointing out with those other kids that I mentioned a couple minutes ago, is when they're not here, I don't know if they get that. I don't know if they get people giving the good message in their head or keeping them on track without making it 100% hockey all the time, just because they're giving them good information and making them feel ambitious and goal driven and goal oriented and staying aligned with what they're doing. Because to me, my opinion, that is what makes or breaks whether or not you're going to achieve the success of whatever your goal is. You know, whether it's a hockey player or something else. It's like if for 3 hours a day you're working on your goal, but then for the next 8 hours that you're still awake, you're not. And that doesn't mean you're stick handling. That doesn't mean you're practicing your shot. That doesn't mean that you never have a bad thing to eat. It means that your head is being filled with things that are keeping you between the lines, like you said. You know, you're not taking your backpack to the skate park and smoking weed and drinking and trying to get away with being an idiot kid because it's fun to be a little bit risky. It's like, those are not the activities that are conducive to your goals. Go golfing? Yeah, that works. Have a good conversation with your dad about this documentary you watched? Yeah, that works. It's like these are things that help to keep you on track with and being thoughtful. And this is one thing that I credit Charlie with a lot, because he's an absolute goof, but he's actually a smart kid. He's not a dumb kid.
He's very, very bright.
So even though 98% of the time people that come into contact with Charlie are like, what a goof, like this guy's such a dummy. It's like, yeah, dummy when he's, but he's dummy when he's being playful and joking around. Yeah. But
like idiot.
He actually gets it, and he actually is dialed in on it, because he always has shit in his head that is keeping him on track. And I think that is what makes guys different. What makes guys different is those other hours.
Yeah.
It's not the hours that everyone is at the gym doing the same thing. You know, the differentiator is those other hours when you're not here. And I think that people would be far better off spending and investing their time in those hours than looking for the secret or looking for the special training tip. It's like, that's only 1 hour of your day. You know,
I was just thinking about this. I talked about this a lot in life. Okay. Oh, it's kind of neat that I get to talk about this a little bit. I think for me and my family, I think we are the perfect situation to. Everyone's different, and people make things work. But for me, I know it's going to sound really weird. I am so glad I didn't become wealthy. Is that a weird statement?
Depends
yeah, it depends. Always depends. And I'm also really glad that, okay, I'm glad, I want to go to the opposite side of that though. Because if I was wealthy, this is what I see. I see the kids have all kinds of toys. The kids have, like, if you're growing up with a kid, they become almost like entitled. And I don't mean that to be a negative thing, but they do become entitled because, I went out with, one kid that I went out with, a player and his dad, and they didn't have Kobe steak, so he didn't want the steak. Right? At home, we don't have a place like just a room where him and his buddies or him could just lounge and just do nothing. Like that basement thing where there's the awesome couches, the TV, all the PlayStations, the like where I can just watch movies all day and love it because it's the dark or it's light or whatever you want it to be, and the lake outside to just have everything I want. So I'm that's what I mean. It's a weird statement to say, well, I'm glad I didn't have all the wealth, because I don't think I could have raised my kid the same way as I've been able to, right? Mm-hmm. Then the other side, I'm glad that we're not poor, like that we're just scraping by, because scraping by, I did that, right? And I had to help my mom pay for her rent at an early age. I had to work and help my mom put food on the table and worry how I'm going to get places and all this stuff. And it's a whole different stress. Does it make you hungry? Yes. But it's that 0 to 1 thing again, where it's like,
it's too much.
It's too much, man. So I couldn't really 100% focus on what I love so much and I was so talented at. So I think in our situation, it's like there's a perfect blend where at home, he's got relax time and good, like a beautiful life, but it's not so much that he can just say, he has to be focused on something.
Yeah. There's always an element of humility with everything.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And like we eat great, healthy, like we got all the things that we need in life and more. But I'm just saying we're not super wealthy that it's like it's over too much. I think a lot of times kids, when they do go home, like to your point, that's why I said this, is I think people have sometimes, of course you want your kids to have everything, right? Of course, that's what you want. But then do you?
Mm-hmm.
So like when you have everything, then why would you want this? The thing that takes work.
Yeah. And right? I think most of like our clients and people that work with us and most of the people we talk to are probably somewhere around the same thing. Like they could make what you have.
Yeah.
Right. And they could make what I had, because you're saying a very similar thing to what my family life was like. And I think most of the kids that are fortunate enough to play hockey, especially if they're playing AAA hockey or they're going up into
and they can afford training.
They can afford training. They're all plus or minus in that realm of where they live comfortably, but not in excess to a crazy degree. Obviously, there's exceptions both ways, but they can create that. And that is kind of what my finishing thought is on the sticking to the plan piece is like, you make your plan and all that is great, and you do it and you try to stick to it, and you don't want to get distracted by needing a bite of everything just to feel like you're getting somewhere. Because most of the families that I see, and I don't have a inside look like behind the curtain of what's going on at a lot of these kids' houses, but you can make a guess of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people, a lot of parents, and a lot of players, lesser on them because they're young, they don't have a focus, or they don't have an environment at home where it's always pointing them in the direction of where they want to go. Just nudging, right? Being the rudder, like you said, directing the traffic where you want it to go. And that, again, I want to stress that doesn't mean you're practicing your shot 100% of the time, or that it's only hockey. That's not what that means.
Well, we see one guy like that. He's always doing something.
Oh yeah.
He's no good.
Right.
No good at hockey. So that's doesn't
not
work.
Better either, right? So but the point being, you're trying to cultivate a good brain, a good environment, because that, to me, what I see with kids, and I don't know if you have something similar, except for those exceptions of kids that are, the 1% and they're just so good that nothing matters,
right?
Which is always the caveat.
Yeah.
The differentiator I see is what the kids have when they're not here. And when they're not here, if they're in a good environment, I find most of those kids end up being the top end kids. If they have an environment where they're allowed to do whatever they want, or they don't have parents that are filling their head with good information, or they don't have somebody trying to push them along to some degree, those are the kids that they're always just missing something. You know, there's always something that's just not there. And that's the biggest differentiator I find. So if you're looking for a secret, like mom and dad and kid, if you're looking for the secret training tip or the secret plan or the secret program, like you mentioned off the top, there's not one. The secret is the hours that you're not here. And that's the common thing that at least that I'm starting to identify with a lot of these kids.
I think that's a very good point. I can't say that for sure that's what it is, but I'd say that's actually a very good point. I always said this, like, if I was a kid, you know who my best friend would be, even if I didn't like him?
Charlie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I hang out at your house? Can I hang out at PowerTech? Can I be your best friend?
Yeah.
Because this is everything that you would want, right?
Yeah. Well,
and he does. His best friends are the guys that are.
That's exactly it. And then his best buddies are those guys.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's kind of at least the start of some of the main points I had on that that idea of sticking to the plan. There's more stuff that we could talk about, but I'm good with that. Unless you had anything else that you kind of wanted to talk about.
I mean, we could go a long time on this stuff, like a long time, but I'm guilty of it sometimes when it comes to fitness, is I get bored a little bit. So I like to mix it up, but I'm not trying to be a professional hockey player anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to just be fit. So that's, I'm going to get certain results. But when I do stick to a plan, it freaking works. And sticking to a plan just takes some stick-to-itiveness, right?
Yeah.
And it's because you do see results. And the biggest thing, it was interesting when Charlie started working out and I was telling him about mental stuff and mental toughness and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, like one day when he was working out, he said, "Hey, Dad, look, and do you see this?" I said, "Yeah, that's the stick-to-itiveness." I said, "You, it takes time. You're not going to see things overnight, right? It's that slight edge. It's doing the right thing, small things every day, or almost every day, that seem like they don't matter, but they add up over time and they give you that slight edge, right?
Yeah.
And that's like having a plan is one of them. Have a plan to stick to things, and it's it's important.
Well, just on that, I'm gonna make one more point, and hopefully this doesn't make us talk for another hour. But I wanted to talk about that element of being disciplined enough to stick to the plan, just real quick, because this is another term that everyone always throws around, like having discipline, being disciplined, whatever. And maybe we'll do an episode on just discipline at some point. But to me, it's like you have to be disciplined enough to stick to the plan that you have for yourself, or if you're following, like I said, a program that's spelled out properly. Discipline is not just going to the gym and going to your on ice training. Discipline is not doing other things, right? When you feel like you have a deep desire to go and just do an extra skate or do an extra.
The discipline, yeah.
Right? So it's people talk about discipline and motivation together, how it's like you got to make sure you're disciplined enough to keep working out and keep getting to the gym and keep and do more and do more and do more and stay on it. And it's like, yes, but you also need to be disciplined enough to not when it's time to not and not derail yourself when you're not doing it. Because one thing that I'm guilty of that it's easy for me to do is if I'm not in a routine, it's easy for me to just like go off the rails now because I'm not in my routine. Yeah. And when you take your off day on Friday, kids, real easy, because I'm not going to the gym and doing my workout, real easy to just call it a pack it in day, and not be disciplined enough to have an actual recovery day, not do nothing and frig off day. So I think that the discipline thing is important when you're talking about sticking to a program too, because you're going to get distracted, man. There's going to be and the thing I said to the one guy I was talking to, I said that did that extra skate. I was like, especially at the level that he's at, it's like everyone's going to want a piece of you, man. Everyone is going to message you for this and this and this and this and this. And being disciplined enough to say no, whether it's the other trainer or me or your dad or whoever it is that's pressuring you, like that's part of the skill set, man. Like being disciplined enough to say no when it's enough. Yeah.
Well, and that's where I think parents get the final say. They do. Yeah. So I exercise that discipline and drew a line in the sand with several things because Charlie got invited to a lot of stuff, right? And the one that sticks out to me is just spring hockey. I said, there's no way he's playing spring hockey. It makes no sense to me, right? So then you get the invites and yeah, but we'll pay for it. This, that, the other. It's prestigious. It's this, it's that. We got the nice invites and stuff like that. And there's times where my wife was upset with me. She goes, "You don't let him experience it, right?" And I said, "Because it's a no. It's a hard no."
Yeah.
And Charlie felt like he was getting screwed, right? Just like, and the reason I'm saying this because a lot of people say, "Well, can I just go to the shooting camp? Can I just do this?" And the parents finally go, yeah. Or can I, whatever, right? So that was like the thing. No, we stuck to it, and it paid dividends. And then he realizes, oh, that was good for me, right?
Yeah.
So little things like that. But yeah, like discipline is huge, and discipline is. If you don't, here's the thing with discipline. That's a quote I have: is that if you don't discipline yourself, and discipline, like you said, discipline doesn't mean all the time everything's got to be perfect and stuff like that. But the thing is, if you don't have discipline or exercise discipline on yourself, then someone else will discipline you in a form of a job or in a form of something. You will be disciplined if you don't have your own discipline.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
awesome, man. I think that's a good note to end on. So we'll leave it there.